Long before the first Roman legions set foot on English soil, when Albion was given over to primeval forests and mist-shrouded mountains, there strode a race of giants whose footsteps cracked the earth and whose laughter rolled like thunder across the valleys. Among these titanic beings, none were more feared or more awe-inspiring than the last great giant of Albion, whose name combined the two primordial brothers of legend, Gog-Magog. Birth of the Giants. In the world's youth, when the gods still walked beside mortals and the land was new, powerful forces of nature coalesced into shape and form. From the molten heart of the earth sprang great mountains. From the swirling oceans rose waves that carved the rocks. And from these elemental crucibles were born the giants, creatures of impossible size, strength, and endurance, fashioned out of stone and storm. Two of the greatest among them were Gog and Magog, twin lords of the wild places, whose lives were as vast and untamed as the landscapes they ruled. Gog was the elder by a moment's breath, his skin like cracked granite, veins coursing with molten iron, and his voice as deep and endless as the subterranean caverns. Magog, slightly smaller in stature though no less fierce, had skin the color of storm clouds and eyes that danced with fleeting lightning. Together they roamed the high places, sculpting mountains with their bare hands, gouging valleys with the sweep of their arms, and reshaping rivers simply by shifting their huge forms across the earth. For centuries they reigned supreme, their dominion undisputed. The forests trembled under their tread, and the woodland creatures fled before them. Eagles that soared beneath their shoulders fell silent at their passing. Wolves howled in warning from distant ridges. Yet despite their fearsome power, Gog and Magog were bound by a brotherly bond that tempered their might. They spoke in a tongue older than the hills, weaving words into the wind so that the mountains themselves listened. The coming of Brutus. Then came the exiles of Troy, led by the Prince Brutus, whose destiny was to found a new kingdom in the far-flung west. They landed on Albion's shores, mere specks of humanity to the towering giants, and set about carving footholds in the wilderness. They felled trees, built crude shelters of wattle and daub, and lit beacon fires to ward away the night's chill. But when word reached them of two colossal sentinels who claimed the land for themselves, terror swept through Brutus's camp. One night, by the flickering light of the great bonfire, Brutus convened his council. "We cannot build walls against waves of the sea." Clad in the heaviest bronze mail they could forge and wielding a club carved from the ironwood trees of the Styx, Corynaeus set out to face Gog under the gray dawn sky. Battle at the Cliffs of Hate. The giants greeted him with laughter that rolled through the valleys like distant thunder. Gog, his massive form entirely covering the mouth of the great cavern where he sheltered, bellowed, "Mortal, thou art brave or foolish. Approach and let us crush thy bones like so much kindling." Corynaeus did not pause. He strode forward, each step shaking brittle stones from the cliff face. With a cry, he swung his club. The blow struck Gog's thigh, sending a shock that rattled the very air, but did little to pierce the giant's stony flesh. Gog countered, grabbing a boulder the size of a cottage and hurling it with casual contempt. Corynaeus rolled to one side, the rock splintering against the cliff behind him. Blow met blow for countless heartbeats. Sparks flew where bronze met granite. Magog, a spectator at first, roared his encouragement, brands of lightning dancing across his knuckles. Corynaeus, bleeding and bruised, refused to yield. He baited Gog forward, feigning a left strike, then leaping aside at the last instant, guiding the giant's momentum toward the precipice. Gog stumbled, just barely, his great arms for a moment pinwheeling before he caught himself. But that moment was all Coriolanus needed. With the strength born of desperation, Coriolanus vaulted onto Gog's back and drove his club upward, shattering the stone-hard skin just above the giant's heart. Gog roared, a sound like a mountain cracking, and staggered backward. Coriolanus held fast, wrapping his arms around the giant's neck even as his own boots slipped on the mossy ledge. With one final heave, he pushed. Gog toppled over the cliff's edge, crashing into the tumultuous sea far below, where whirlpools and rocks tore him asunder. Magog, seeing his brother rent by the ocean's fury, howled in grief and rage, but at that moment Brutus's warriors, now rallied by Coriolanus's victory, surged forth. Magog, overwhelmed and alone, retreated into the forest, never to be seen again. Thus ended the age of giants in Albion. Brutus claimed the land and called it Britain in honor of his forebears. Coriolanus was hailed as the nation's founder, and the cliffs where Gog fell were forever after known as the Cliffs of Hate. Over centuries, the story wove itself into the tapestry of legend. Chroniclers like Geoffrey of Monmouth, centuries later, told of Gog Magog as a singular monstrous figure, a symbol of the untamed forces that civilization must conquer. In Tudor London, when the Guildhall was rebuilt after a great fire, wooden effigies of Gog and Magog were carved and placed as guardians of the city gates, stone echoes of the vanished race. Every year at the Lord Mayor's show, performers in giant costumes reenact the scuffle between, reminding the citizens that even the greatest of men must face their fears, and that even the mightiest of foes can be felled by courage and cunning. Whispers in modern mists. Even now in the deep wilds of Cornwall and Devon, fishermen on fog-wreathed mornings swear they glimpse a colossal shape rising from the surf, only to vanish when they draw near. Hikers in remote ravines tell of thunderous footsteps in the night and gusts of wind that carry faint, lamenting roars. Skeptics murmur of trickster lights and misidentified seals, but the old families of those regions whose ancestors first came with Brutus still pass down the tale of Gog Magog, the last giant whose spirit lingers on the very cliffs where he fell. And so, when the wind howls through the tors and the sea mists curl around your ankles, listen closely, and you may hear, beneath the roar of the breakers, the echo of a giant's parting breath. If you enjoyed this journey into the legend of Gog Magog, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more mythical tales and ancient lore. Your support keeps these stories alive. Thank you.